I'm going to give everyone a quick second to get settled here, but obviously you're in the Investing in Yourself panel, and you chose a really great panel to come to end your day. So thank you so much for choosing this panel. I know that all the speakers here are definitely going to provide some amazing, lasting advice to end today. I'm watching these numbers. We got 42 people in here. That's great. I'm watching these numbers go up. So I think right now I'm going to pass it over to our student ambassador to start off with our introduction, and then we'll go into the panel. But thank you guys so much for coming.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. I hope you're all doing well and have enjoyed your day so far from the comfort of wherever you are. My name is Megha Parikh, and I'm a freshman marketing major here at Isenberg. This is my first conference, and I'm beyond excited to help lead the Investing in Yourself panel. I've always heard people talk about the importance of taking time for yourself, whether it's relaxing or learning a new skill. I've recently realized that investing in yourself is so much more than just these two options. It's about taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical health. And after the past 2 years we've all had, I'd say it's well-deserved. Last semester, I watched a TED Talk that explains the idea of being a multi-potentialite, someone who has so many different interests. I myself like to identify as a multi-potentialite. That's one of the reasons why I'm double minoring in psychology and economics. There's so much I want to do and learn. But right up there with my goal of learning about things that excite me is taking care of myself. Alongside this strive to learn more comes burnout. Trying to find this balance between taking care of myself and doing all that I can in 24 hours has been difficult. It's hard for me to accept that I can't always do everything, but I can do one thing at a time. There's a balance between the two, and it's one of the most important details to discover while investing in yourself. There are no limits to what we can do. The world is at our disposal. Today, we will be hearing from 4 amazing women who will dive deeper in investing in themselves and share their experiences where they have believed in themselves when it felt like everything was rooting against them. So without further ado, let's welcome Jessica Sannon, Michelle Birch, Nicole Tesson, and Kristen Filippelli. I would love it if our lovely panelists could introduce themselves. Jessica, we can start with you.
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Sannon, pronouns she, hers, and hers. I am the founder and CEO of Systemic Flow, company aimed to advance STEM learning and education for BIPOC girls in the greater Boston area. And I'm just super excited to be with you all here today. I also will say that I attended UMass. I graduated in 2015 with my bachelor's in mathematics, statistics, and economics. So super excited to be here. Ooh, my bad. Click the wrong way.
Michelle, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Well, I feel like I know Jessica very, very well, and we've only met once before, so you're in for a treat. My name is Michelle Birch, and most of you, I think, at this point know me. If anybody who doesn't, I'm a faculty member here at UMass in the OIM department, so shout out there. And I actually am now the associate chair of the OIM department, which is kind of cool. And I can't even begin to say how proud I am of these Isenberg women. Amazing stuff.
Thank you so much. Nicole?
Hi, I'm Nicole Tesson, and I am a manager in public accounting at RSM. I am also a mom of 2, and I am a UMass grad in 2007, and I also received my MSA from UMass.
Awesome. And Kristen, let's finish it off.
Hey everyone, I'm Kristen Filippelli. I am a UMass 08 grad with my degree in restaurant management, which I do not do right now, but it was a great experience. I learned a lot. I now currently work for Wayfair in their operations division. I work in our Castlegate program, which is our like Amazon Prime, like the next day shipping systems and warehousing. So a lot of like inventory, warehousing, logistics.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being here today. We're so excited to have you all here. And I'm so excited to hear about your stories and learn how to manage burnout while still investing in ourselves. So our first question today is going to be for Jessica and Michelle. And the question is, what are the most impactful ways you have invested in yourself? What risks have you taken that have benefited you and or your career? Michelle, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Okay. So risks, I would say risks started way back when at the end of high school. And so, and that's a really long time ago. At the end of high school, I decided that I was good at math, I was good at science, and everybody said, you're a female, you need to be an engineer. So I went ahead and I decided that I was going to become a mechanical engineer. So I did so, and I went to the University of Notre Dame, and I soon found myself in a sea of men. And so there were 7 women out of 60 men. And I have to say, it was a little daunting at first, of course, but eventually it really helped actually build confidence instead of tear it down at that point. So that was cool. And so that was the first thing. But in all honesty, at the end of the day, when I was done with the 4 years, I said, and I got my first job as the product engineer in Springfield, I started thinking, oh, interesting. This mechanical engineering thing is not for me. And so then I was thinking a shift is necessary. I got kind of, I would say there just wasn't enough people interaction in the particular job that I was in. And so what I started to do it then, another way I felt like, okay, I'm going to invest in myself again, is I'm going to pursue an MBA. And so this is when UMass Amherst, well, actually UMass, I used to go to a satellite in Holyoke, actually at Holyoke Community College to do my MBA. They used to have these professional MBAs. You all are probably way too young to remember these things, but they did. And I did that part-time, and it was great. And actually that's where I met, there was another person that was in the conference we were talking about in between the break. I met some folks who are actually here today who also got their MBA in that fashion. And so I did that for a couple of years. And then I moved from engineering into sales, right? People, another move, I'm going into sales. So I started traveling. And the cool thing was I was traveling to the Midwest, and the reason why that was so cool, not just because Midwest is cool, but because I did go to Notre Dame and I could go to the football games and tap into that with my trips while traveling in sales. And so that was fantastic. But then I soon realized that still it wasn't enough. I was missing something, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was that I wanted to pursue. And so in the meantime, I had actually met my future husband, and my future husband asked me to marry him. And I said, sure, okay, I'm quitting my job. And we got engaged. I quit my job and I said, I'm going back to get my PhD full time. And so we actually stayed on, and we've been married for over 20 years now. But that was definitely a risk in the sense that I think he always, to this day, he always goes, I was going to retire after you got your PhD, and he's still working. So maybe one day. But either way, I did that. But while I was doing my PhD, I would say another thing that became quite the invest in myself, I wanted kids. I wanted a family really badly. And that whole part of getting through the classes, I was really quick with getting through the classes. You know, I was a master class taker. I've been doing it for the bulk of my life. My husband called me a professional student at that point. And so this professional student was getting paid minuscule. While you do your PhD, it's required at UMass, if you get your PhD, to quit your job. You do have to quit. You can't do it. I knew someone actually who tried to keep on, and they were told, nope, not going to happen. But then I decided to have some kids. And wow, anybody who has had kids or family or adopted or anything like along those lines, wow, they take over the whole head, heart area. The PhD was like the furthest thing from my mind. I put it on the back burner. I ABD'd. Do y'all know what ABD is? Hey, by the way, feel free, this is the way I teach too, to unmute yourselves during my home talk if you want to like spurt in your interjections. I'm totally fine with that. But yeah, the ABD is all but dissertation. And I took that to an extreme. So most people finish their PhDs in about 3 or 4 years. And that's what I told my husband when I went in. So, we're talking 6 years, 7 years later, I'm still ABD, and I'm like plugging away at that dissertation, because that's all but dissertation, right? So I'm plugging away at that thing, and it's monumental. And all the while I knew, and I really did enjoy my research, but I knew I loved teaching. Like, you had to teach some classes to get your PhD too. And when I got in that classroom, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I want to do. And so I couldn't, I was going into 13 companies. I was interviewing people, and it was supposed to be a longevity type research. So boy, did I take that longevity to an extreme. And I had this committee member, and the lesson that I really got from this, and something that you all can take, and I know you're all overachievers, right? And you're all perfectionists, and you're all amazing, and you're all used to doing amazing things. He called me out. He called me out on, you got to do, you know what? And he was not nice, but he was being nice. And so this is my piece of advice. I cried. I mean, there were tears when he approached me and said, you got 6 months. If you don't have something moving by then, you're out. You know, and I'm like 8 years in at this point. I'm like, what? What do you mean? And I remember feeling I took it so personally. And I did. I really had to learn to take constructive criticism and really be able to take that. This is not even constructive. This is the reality. And you're whitewashing this at this point. And you got to really just be like, go for it. And so by his doing that, I did. I buckled down as much as the toddlers would come up and slam my laptop shut while I was working on things. I buckled down and I did it. And I pushed forward. And as much as he made the tears flow when I saw that, man, after I finally finished it, I tear up now thinking about it, because he really is. And I just saw him in the grocery store, by the way, a couple weeks ago. And every time I see him, I think he's a little nervous, but I'm always like, nope, you don't understand. I needed that. And sometimes you just need someone to give you the hard reality of where you have to go. And so that's the story I wanted to share. And I think the big lesson is sometimes the people that may seem like they're being unkind and pushing you, and in some instances, it might be what you really need.
Similar to Michelle, I was always good in math growing up, that I came into college like, I'm gonna nail this shit. I'm gonna pass my math. I'm gonna get my math degree, and I'm gonna work for like some awesome data background kind of business. And then my first year at UMass, I failed Calculus 1, failed statistics a couple times, and I questioned whether or not math was for me. To the point where, although I, thankfully, by participating in various organizations, I was able to get it, but I didn't quite think that I was ready to go into the workforce industry. So one of the impactful things that kind of led to what I do now, which is run Systemic Flow, is I did a year of service. I did a year of service with Commonwealth Corps that had a partnership with Brandeis University, of which I was able to get my MBA in nonprofit management for free. So that is one thing, which led to my risk, which was starting my own business. I did not know that I had what it takes to run a business, right? I'm someone that like love to work behind the scenes. Like I love math, so anything screen related, I'm all about it. And so I didn't know I had the skills to connect with people, to implement programs, to create websites, like you name it. There were so many things within learning or creating this business that I had to overcome. I can't stand social media, and that was one of the things that I had to overcome. I know that we needed to have an online presence, and so me not being on Instagram, on Facebook actually impacted the kind of work that I wanted to do. So I had to buckle down. I had to take some courses, watch some YouTubes, and get it right. So I think those are the kinds of risks and opportunities in that way. But I will say that I am doing this business part-time. So while I was getting my while I was getting my MBA, or even after that, my first job, literally 3 months later, I got fired because they said that I, wasn't meeting their skills or their qualifications up to par, which really hurt, right? I come with my MBA, right, out of grad school, and here I am, like I have all the skills necessary you need, and yet you're telling me that I don't have the skill sets required. And for the long time, I questioned myself whether or not I had what it takes to even work for other people. And coming out of that, I realized after doing several internship opportunities that it really wasn't me who didn't have that kind of qualifications. The company wasn't set up well for me to kind of get amplify or elevate myself, right? So I think some of the opportunities, risks, what have you, is being able to let yourself do all the various experiences or internships so you can determine how a company is successfully setting you up in the way that you want to be set up. To the point where, fast forward, during the pandemic, I also had a full-time job working in education. As you know, I love education. And after two years of being with the organization, I felt again that they was not setting me up. They weren't giving me the specific benefits. They weren't giving me the specific kind of hours that I was looking for. And I had to just shut it down. As much as I loved working with my students, and I really loved it because I knew that I had a very emotional and tie to this kind of work, where I had to look out for my BIPOC students. And I knew if I left, that kind of connection would be missing. So, but at the same time, I knew that for me, I needed to kind of take a step back and tell my students at the end of the day, like, hey, I love working with you. I love what you do, but it's time that I need to think about myself. And so I had to remove that emotional attachment for my students to say, you know what, I quit. I'm gonna look for a new job. I don't know what that's going to look like or what that's going to entail, but I am so thankful and grateful for that, because man, when I tell you how much burnt out I was from that job, I was truly burnt out. And so I'm saying this to let you know that there are certain things in your life where you're going to be super passionate about it, but you'll ultimately have to make that decision among yourself, whether or not you want to continue that despite the passion, or continue it because it's the best opportunity for you. So I'm hoping that all resonates or makes sense with you all.
Yeah, that was so great to hear. And that's actually a perfect transition into my next question for you guys. Burnout is a term regularly associated with stress, but can be difficult to describe since it varies for each individual. And if you experienced burnout, what were some of the symptoms that you faced, and what strategies did you use to manage that burnout and improve your work-life balance? And also, what are some strategies that have been helpful to you in the long term as you've progressed further into your professional career? And Jessica, because you were just talking about that, we can start off with you and the questions for all of our panelists. So after Jessica, we can just go down the line.
For sure. So that's a hefty question. So for me, I, as maybe from what you can hear, I'm an overachiever. I like to do a whole lot of things. And in fact, and I'll talk a little bit about this more specifically, I have a lot of responsibilities outside of work. There are stuff at home that I have to handle. There are things that I have to do. And so oftentimes for me, unfortunately, it's literally the physical burnout that I face, where I cannot get out of work. Cannot get out of bed, where my mind is constantly running and I can't rest. And this is still something that honestly, I'm still learning on how to do better at acknowledging that burnout phase a lot faster, right? Because I don't want to end up feeling like I need to take 3 days off because I'm super tired. I want to be able to like pick that up as soon as possible. And unfortunately, like, not to say that I'm not the best panelist for this, but I will be honest to say that I'm still self-analyzing in that way. I'm still self-reflecting what that looks like for me and how to go about that. So some of the strategies I will say that I have tried to implement is to journal. I have like this, I wish I brought it with me, but I don't. I have this 365-day journaling where I try to wake up and I write down all the great things that are happening, all of the things that at the end of the day, like, not necessarily may need improvement, but things that I can do a lot better. I'm trying to do less work and more fun. I took up violin again, as well as I am determined to watch one theater show a month because that's something that I love to do. So I'm trying to do less of what other people are expecting of me and try to do the things that I love more. So I would say for you all to just try to think through what those things are and make sure that people aren't taking that away from you. And I know for me specifically in college, back at that time, there were a lot of things that I was interested in where a lot of my friends weren't, and I questioned whether or not I belonged in that way. And I wish I didn't, because now all of the things that make me unique, again, makes me unique and make me authentic and makes me different, which I actually really enjoy kind of finding that self-discovery among myself.
Thank you so much for being vulnerable with us and sharing that story. Nicole, do you want to touch on the question?
Sure. Being a working mom, I mean, life is hectic in itself. So throw 2 kids in there and it gets really crazy. I know when I am burnt out, when I am sitting on the couch a lot more, not wanting to get up and play with my kids. Right now is our busier time at work. So I'm feeling the burnout a little bit at this point. And so like yesterday, some of my tips that I do is I'll go take some time for myself, go to the nail salon, get my nails done, just to kind of have that mental break from everything, or to the spa. Yesterday I actually said, okay, I'm taking some time away from work, and my kids and my husband and I went to see Disney on Ice. Uh, and it was just kind of that relaxing moment, kind of cherishing the memories with them, shut my phone off. That is a key thing, is to, when you're feeling the burnout, shut everything down, stay off social media, just get rid of the electronics. But in terms of kind of trying to prevent the burnout over the long term, I do try to exercise at least 4 times a week. The endorphins, just, it does help. I stay very, my husband makes sure I take my vitamins every day, my vitamin D, my magnesium. So, I mean, and those things do help. I talk to my career advisor at least once a week, just to kind of, whether it's work related or personal stuff, it just helps to vent sometimes. So those are kind of my ways of addressing burnout.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I feel like we can probably relate, except instead of not hanging out with our kids, it's like friends. I had a similar thing going on yesterday, so I took some time and did a face mask because I was like, I need to be on top of my game for today. Kristen, do you want to touch on the question?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this question because for me, I love to work, and like I've been working since I was like 12 years old, and my family's like family run appliance store business. And so like I just thought like work is always there and I really enjoy it. And like I always go by like I'd rather be busy than bored. And so I'm always go, go, go. And recently when, you know, we changed because of COVID to this like work from home environment, is when I really started to learn what burnout is, and like to truly believe that burnout is real, and maybe something I didn't really think about as much before because I was just always love working. And I think that for me, I love to help people. So, you know, at work from home, when I brought my laptop home with me, and it's like literally sitting next to, like my couch is right, it's right here. Like I could touch it from where I'm sitting, like, right. So my computer and my couch, and, you know, it's like, you hear the Slacks go off or whatever team chat thing that your company uses. And just, you know, a message comes up, an email comes in, it's like 7:00. It's like, oh, hey, Kristen, can you do this? And I'm like, oh yeah. Cause I'm so happy to please. And I want to help people because that makes me happy. And as that, you know, goes on, and over a period of time, it just kind of like starts chipping away, and it starts feeling on you, and just, you're like, okay, I want to help. And you give so much of yourself that you have nothing left for yourself. And it's like, it's very overwhelming. So I think it's so important to like look for the signs. And like you've heard a lot of the panelists speak, and it's different for everyone. They all have different ways of recognizing when they're not feeling themselves. For me, it's when my alarm goes off and I run in the morning. So I go for my run, and on my run, I'm thinking about work, which is sometimes a really great thing because it helps me like think through ideas and solve problems. Or other times it's like, oh, I have to go to work. Like when I start not wanting to go to work, because like I said, I like to work and I like to help people and solve problems. To me, that's when I'm like, oh no, the burnout's coming. It's here. Oh no, it's coming. And it just like starts to build. So for me, that's like my trigger. And I'm like, okay, here we are. Like, what do I do? Okay, I have to start setting limits for myself, turn my Slack off. So like, it's not on my phone. So it doesn't beep when I'm watching, you know, Mean Girls or whatever it is, or, you know, like make sure that I shut my computer off at 5:00 and have dinner with my fiance, and we sit down, we have a meal uninterrupted. And for me, that's how you start to be more cognizant of like your working hours and the overload. And then once I try to like get back into work, when I'm feeling in a good place, I try to tackle things at work that make me happy, that are like my favorite things to do. Like if I love doing this task, even though it's still work, but I really enjoy doing it, I make sure when I hop back on the next day, that's what I start with. So you like start off on a positive that sets the tone for the day. And I think for me, that's how I start to help like relieve that burnout. Maybe instead of like 50% of my day doing things I don't love, but it's part of my job, and 50% of my day doing things that I do love, maybe my first couple of days of that week are a little bit 70-30, right? And making sure I still get done when I need to, but I make sure I focus on myself and do the things that make me happy. So that's kind of how I recognize burnout and how I kind of deal with it through my like working day.
Kristen, I can totally relate to a lot of what you were saying. And I think the biggest sign for me, so from a different perspective, of course, but the biggest sign for me that I was experiencing burnout, which was entirely related to the pandemic, teaching remotely, entirely. And even though it has been going on for a while now, that you all know, as students, we are accessible, quote, 24/7 now through what's referred to as email. And I used to really not mind the occasional email off of hours. And because I have a problem on my own, right? So this is on me though, because I read them all the time. And I knew that I was experiencing burnout when I started getting pretty irritable. I was short fused. I would get an email and actually say things out loud if it was like some weird off hour. And I thought, this is bad. I'm not laughing. I'm not smiling. Most of the time I could just chuckle. This person asking for how to do a problem at 11:45 at night. Half the time I'd answer them in the past. But this time I actually thought for the first time in my life about retirement. And I've never thought about retirement because I love my job. And you all know this. I've been telling you how much I love you. And this is kind of self-corrected since we've gotten back on campus. But there's a couple things that I learned during this time period that have helped me establish, as Kristen was talking about, boundaries, like boundaries for my workday. And and I have to shut off. And my husband's always said to me, why are you answering these emails at this hour? Because he could see me visibly getting nutty. And I thought, I now thought to myself, yeah, but I'm just as much to blame. I send emails all the time to my colleagues off hours. And actually academics do this a lot, by the way, I can just tell you right now. And they do stuff in the middle of a Sunday or Sunday night. They do this stuff. And our work days are a little weird, right? Because our time is kind of our own. But you really kind of have to establish if you don't want to burn out in those times. And so I now have set schedules where I try to only look at emails. I don't do it super well, but I try only at certain times of the day. And then the other thing to do now is I use that little thing in the email where you schedule to send. And I now don't send an email. If it's 8:30 at night, I'm not sending it. It's 8 a.m. the next day. And it's because there are, like I said, there are people in Isenberg too, and my colleagues who will answer emails, including Emily Must, who's here in our panel today, any time of the day. And so that's one thing that I really tried to do. And I think long-term, so those are indications of what was going on. And what I do is, like many of you, I set time aside for friends and I make sure I'm laughing and I'm doing fun things. And it got during the pandemic, and a lot of you figured this out too. I knew there was an issue when I didn't even want to do the fun things with the friends. And I thought, ooh, that's a sign, that's bad. And so I kind of would force myself a little bit to do it. And inevitably when I started laughing and smiling more, and it eased up and it got better.
Thank you all so much for sharing your experience with this. I know we can all take something away from it. Our next question is going to be for Kristen, Nicole, and Jessica. We can also go in that order. Self-confidence plays an important part in our ability to invest in ourselves. How do you develop the self-confidence to take a risk that will benefit you in the future? So like I said, Kristen, you can go first, and then we can go to Nicole and Jessica.
Yeah, thank you. So this is a really great question because having confidence in yourself is so critical for work, life, personal, like relationships, like everything, right? Like you have to be confident and you have to love yourself first. It's huge. I mean, like, I can't even tell you how big this like self-confidence is. And I think for me, I think you gain more confidence in yourself through like as you get older and through the experiences that you have and the way you test yourself and try yourself and like learn that yourself, like you're right and you're following the right things, right? So I think, something that like I've always thought of is like doing the small things, like I think I used this example before, like try new food, right? Like start with something small, right? And like, okay, I did something weird. I stepped outside my comfort zone and it was good and it was okay. And like, that's how you start to slowly build that self-confidence. Or like take a risk, like make a suggestion at work or raise your hand in class and offer an opinion. And then like, like you're like, okay, I did that. I survived. I didn't die. Right. Like, like I'm here, I'm doing okay. And as you start to grow and expand and as you live your life and so many things happen and like life is tough and you persevere, and that's how you become confident in yourself, because yourself is the only thing that you have, like that's solid, like it's just you, and you have people that come in and out of your lives and help you along the way, but like you have to love yourself, you have to be confident in yourself, because we are all strong, amazing women, and that's so key to remember. And as you go through life, just trust yourself, trust your gut. I think I do a lot of gut checking and a lot of being like, okay, like, is this what I should be doing? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I should be doing that because I trust myself and I trust my gut and I listen to it. And I think the more times you do that, that's how you start to grow that self-confidence. And you should just, I mean, like, I think Jessica said earlier, like, like you got to just like love yourself. Be you, be authentic, be who you are. And that's how you become confident.
So Kristen, you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, I think from a young age, we are built up, and especially as a woman, I feel like when I was growing up, very different from my mom. I was promoted and encouraged to do things which helped me build my self-confidence over the years. I will say though, after my first job in industry, my self-confidence was broken a little bit. And so it took a while to kind of start building it back up again. And it was through the mentors that I associated myself with that really helped me start to believe in myself again. And I think as I've aged and had different life experiences, my confidence has grown. I was willing to take a step outside of my comfort zone and join our training team and lead some of the in-house trainings that we do for our staff at the firm. And I realized, wow, I really love teaching. And so I try to do that as much as possible. And just kind of to go back to the burnout, when I am feeling burnt out, I volunteer to teach trainings because it takes me away from my everyday work, which I love doing. But I would say too, when I became a mom, that even helped me build my confidence, because I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to work and take care of a child and all of this other responsibilities that I have with my immediate family? And I think having her there, my first was a girl, it really, I wanted to show her that I could do it. And she sees it now, and I can see, because I have the confidence in myself to do it, I'm now reflecting that onto her, and she has the confidence in herself to try different things and do different things. My other one's a little too young to to really realize what's going on, but I think it really is just over time, and the people that you associate with yourself with will help you develop your confidence.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Kristen and Nicole said. I mean, they both said it right. I know for me, I had a lot of cultural barriers growing up in terms of, to your point, expectations on what it means to be woman, what it means to be the first daughter in my family, having to take care of my siblings like a mom, and how I dressed, how I spoke, all of those things. And that kind of removed me from being my authentic self, right? It kind of forced me to like, continue to compare myself to others and what they can kind of bring to the table. And so over time, and I'm still struggling with this, right? My parents are still kind of very much old school, very much have their cultural expectations, and we're having ongoing conversations. I would say that has been a really plus during the pandemic, when they finally can kind of realize how stressful work can be and how much it is for someone like me to have to kind of delegate and have obligations at home. But the two things that I have done over time, again, in my culture, when you take photos, you can't really show an expression. It has to be very solid, no smiling, no teeth, no nothing. It has gotten better over time, but when I was a kid, I couldn't smile at all. And then again, with the wearing of the outfits and skirts, and my parents were all about like wearing skirts all the time and what that looks like. And over time, okay, I've been able to, change that identity real quick, But one thing that I said that I have been doing is taking selfies of who I am and what I look like at this time to recognize and appreciate who I am and what I look like, to gain that confidence within me before I look to other people to give me that confidence, whether or not they agree on what beauty means to them, what beauty looks like or means to them for me. That's one. Other things is, as you may have seen, I trip up on my words a lot. I grew up with a speech impediment. And so speaking was also very difficult for me. And so with my business and with other things that I love to do, I actually take recordings like this, and I'm hoping I can take this recording, as well as any other workshop that I facilitate, to kind of hear and listen to what I'm saying. Because sometimes what I'll do after an event, I'm like, oh shit, like oh snap, I said the wrong things. Like I didn't get my message across or nothing. Like I'm downsizing me, right? And then I'll listen to the recording and I'm like, oh man, I had nothing to worry about. Like I was not afraid. I see a whole lot of nods in the audience and they're engaged. So what if I'm not saying the right words? Like as long as you get what I'm saying, then that's fine. So like to Kristen's point of like the small little steps, before I couldn't be able to watch a recording, I had to listen in. And I had to listen in when I was like cleaning the dishes because I didn't want to like be fully there. Now I can put it in my car and listen and give myself strategic feedback if I need to. So again, it's the little steps that I'm doing. It's the communication, the conversations I'm having with my friends and my family. And to Nicole's point, like mentors are super key. Your friends are super key. As you get older, there's going to be a lot of people in your life who's probably not going to be with you, who probably won't advocate for you. And that is fine because you will find people in your corner who will. So just those are my kind of strategies and advice on that.
Thank you so much. I especially love the selfie trick you were talking about. That warmed my heart. And I love the meaning behind it, the principle behind that. I think I might need to start doing that. So the next questions we have are kind of directed specifically at our panelists. So first we'll start with Michelle. Michelle, as a professor, do you have any advice that you give your students regarding the balance of mental health and education?
Thank you, Mega. Yes. First of all, I would say this: always reach out to your professors in classes if you're struggling with something, and just recognize that I believe there's a lot or faculty care, or at least I care. I guess I can't speak for everybody, but from what I know, all the faculty I know, we care. And so with that, though, I would say this, and this is just having been in the classroom when a student gets a grade that they're maybe not so happy about. School is important. Yes, there's no doubt about it, but it is hands down not most important. I tell my own kids this: you need to take care of yourself first. You need to take care of your mental health first. You have to recognize when there is way too much on your plate. I've seen many of my Isenberg students when they start rattling off the 45,000 things they're doing. Now, granted, some people are just, like I know Kristen was saying she loves to work. Like, I get this. We have a lot of students who really like to keep busy, but make sure some of those busy things you have going are also the things that bring you happiness. Like if it brings you happiness, great. But when it's too much, I would say, I even did this with my own daughter. My own daughter is at Penn State, and there was one semester she had already done, she took 2 teaching assistant positions. And then the next semester, I actually forbade her. I said, no, you can't. You've got to take 1. It's too much, And she's like, oh, but I need it for this and this and this. I'm like, I don't care. Nope. First and foremost, you're getting rid of one of those. No, you're not doing it. And so she did. And I think she's much happier for it. So I think that's one of the big things, is recognize when you're taking on too much, cut some stuff out. So leave the time to do the things that really make college that unique experience that it should be for you. Join some clubs, have fun with friends, participate in an intramural team. I actually played on the soccer intramural team when I was a grad student there with a bunch of undergrads, and I played flag football with a bunch of crazy people, and that was fun. And so attend a concert, go to a game, watch a play. There's so many fun things to do. And I say leave time for that. Isenberg students, okay, we've heard this cliche, you're driven. And I totally agree that you're totally driven. But I think one of the biggest things is you need to know when to downshift. You need to know when to take your foot off the pedal and to just kind of enjoy the scenery as it goes through, because it does hopefully happen once, unless you go to grad school and become a perpetual student like me. But otherwise, in that same vein, you all Isenberg students, you have high expectations with regards to grades, and you know who you are. If you've sat in that classroom and you've said this, you've gotten the exam back, and it's the first time you've ever gotten anything below a B. And I've seen this time and time again, and the student is just devastated, and they think the carpet's been pulled out from under them, and they're not going to get that internship. And you know what, there are internships out there, yeah, that they require these certain GPAs and everything. But I bet if you talk to anyone who's already been through their undergraduate years, and we've heard this from Jessica, for example, they're going to recall a bad grade in college at some point, and whether that was on an exam or an overall grade. But I know that if you ask them about it now, they're going to chuckle about it. It's going to actually bring a chuckle, because I can chuckle about the bad grades I got. And because they know now that regardless of that grade, they made it. And at the time, it seems like a total showstopper. And I always contend this. And I've talked to many people who have employed, I've been on the HR side of things. 5 years out of college, no one's asking about your grades anymore. It really doesn't matter. So while you're here at Isenberg, that doesn't mean don't work hard. What I would say is get out of those classes what really matters.
Thank you so much. I think that that's a really good piece of advice to take away. My mom always told me that grades aren't everything. They're very important, but they're not everything. But we have a wide range of ages of people here. And as a student, I kind of want to shift into what does happen in the workplace. So like you said, life can get busy, and sometimes we do forget to check in on ourselves. This question's for Nicole and Kristen. In what ways do your companies support their employees' mental health, which is extremely important, as there are some students here starting, like I know Kate's a senior, starting her journey into the real world after this. I think it'll be really important.
I can start. So my firm takes mental health very seriously. We have so many different things available to us when we're struggling with mental health issues or just stressed out. We actually have an intranet that I can click on for the employees, and it lists out all the different options. So I can go to a coach on call to talk to someone. I can actually go to a registered therapist and set up an appointment if things for me are getting really serious. And I have, like I said, my career advisor, who usually would be the one to her or anyone that I'm working with might suggest, hey, you're looking stressed out. Like, why don't you maybe talk to someone? And I mean, I think the biggest thing about the firm is that it's not shameful to talk to someone. There's no stigma there. It's okay. You have things that happen in life. So they want to make sure that we are taken care of as employees. Yes, we're there to work, but they also know that, like I said, there's things in life that happen, and people need help, and that's okay. I'm just trying to think of some of the other, obviously they promote taking time off to get that mental health check and just take a break from everything. So I think those are the big pieces that we offer. And honestly, I can walk into any office here, and if I'm really, really struggling, talk to any of my friends. We are a very close-knit community. Even those that have left the firm to pursue other opportunities, we still are always in contact with. So I even have that outside network from the firm to gauge. So yeah, those are the big things that the firm does offer. And like I said, it's always important to take that step back and check in because unfortunately, I've seen what happens when people don't do that. So.
And then over at Wayfair, I am proud at the amount of investment in mental health services and offerings that I've seen the company add over the last couple of years. Moving away from like the negative stigma around mental health and really embracing it and encouraging conversations and like education around topics that maybe people were too scared to talk about before, and helping us all be better at recognizing different needs of different coworkers. And we added just recently like a telehealth service where I can call and speak to someone at any time of the day. That's part of our benefits package. We have this thing called like Way Healthy, where the company will sponsor different either like fitness initiatives or like competitions, like healthy competitions. They provide like nutrition services, mental health services, mental health awareness. They just really try to make it, I guess, more open and more, less afraid to talk about it. I really like that our company is flexible in where, like, let's say I'm having like just like a really shitty morning and like I just can't get it together, and I can Slack my boss and be like, hey, I'm gonna come in at 10 today, like it's just been a morning. And he's like, you take your time, take what you need. We'll see you at 10 and you'll crush it when you get in. And even if I, don't crush it when I get in, but like I have that flexibility to like take that moment and be like, okay, Kristen, get yourself together, go to work, have a great day, make people happy, solve some problems. And they encourage that. And it really comes from like communication and keeping open lines of communications with your company and your boss. We just recently added, and this is big for Wayfair, like flex holiday hours or flex hours. So like if I just need a mental health day, like I can take it and I can be like, okay, I need to step back. Things are getting a little too crazy. And that's when I would take the time to like check in with myself and be like, okay, this is valuable. Like you need to like take time for yourself today. And I just think like, just really proud to be part of a company that is always raising awareness, has a plethora of resources that you can go to if you need help, if you want to seek education, if you want to just talk to anyone. So I think that's kind of how that Wayfair is doing it. Oh, and actually my favorite part, I lied. This is my favorite part is they invest in the teams. So they give us like a pod outing money. So every month my team is given like $20 a person to just go out and like during working hours, go and like relax and have a drink or go do a fun activity. Like we did archery tag last week, and like just things to help like keep everyone feeling okay, investing in us, giving us time to just breathe and be together as a team, and also like kind of like blow off some steam or have a couple drinks. And the company is it's really just been a pleasure to see them grow in this space.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So we're now gonna open it up to a little Q&A section, and there is actually some really good questions in the chat. One of them relates back to Kristen, what you were just saying, and it's how do you decide to do what you need and not what you want?
I think that comes with kind of like the self-confidence that we spoke about earlier, right? And it's like knowing that like I need to do this for me, otherwise I'm not going to be any good for anyone else, right? Like if I don't take the time to do what I need to do to make me feel better, to make me be a better worker, like without doing that, I'm not going to be of use to anyone else. You got to like, my grandfather says, like, you got to like put in the pot before you could take out the pot. Like I have to put in the pot of me before I can take it out and give to someone else. So if I don't invest in me, I'm not there for anyone else. So that's how I decide and prioritize my thing, like what I need to do versus what I have to do. Now, obviously there's a balance and it's finding that. And that's just something that you personally have to play with. Like what's the littlest that you can give before you have to do things, or, and just playing with that balance is kind of my advice there.
I actually just want to add to that real quickly. I feel like if you reframe that question, it's a mindset, right? So if you say you want to do what you need, then you reframe it. You want to do the stuff that you need that makes you feel balanced and whole. And so if you reframe it that way, then they're not battling against each other.
Thank you so much for this entire panel. So we've come to the end of our Q&A and almost the end of the conference, which makes me really sad. But thank you so much to everyone who asked questions and our panelists for the great responses. I'm now going to hand it over to Caitlin to explain our next steps.
Thank you so much, Nicole, Kristen, Jessica, and Michelle, for sharing all of your inspiring experiences and stories on investing in yourself. Another huge thank you to Megha Parikh, our WOI student ambassador, for moderating the panel. You did such an amazing job. And above all, thank you to everyone in this Zoom room who dedicated part of their Saturday to Women of Isenberg to learn, grow, and connect with this community. We are so honored to have you, and we hope you took some advice and information with you as you head back to school or careers on Monday. These past 2 years have been nothing short of unpredictable, but something that has stayed true is this community. Without fail, you have shown up for our virtual events, transitioned seamlessly with us when we had to change plans, interacted on social media, and so much more. We want to give you a final shout out to every group involved with making this day happen, and especially want to congratulate the student ambassadors, the community council, and the WOI planning team for an event well done. Please be sure to keep an eye out for a post-event survey on the app or through email, as well as posted pictures from today's event. I hope everyone made new connections today, and don't be afraid to reach out to people on LinkedIn or email to keep this community growing. Lastly, we want to announce the date of the hopefully in-person 2023 Women of Isenberg Conference. The 10th annual WOI conference will be held on Saturday, February 25, 2023. Make sure to save the date. You won't want to miss it. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and thank you again for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great one.